Good evening, my friends. Are you ready to drift into a peaceful slumber tonight? Or, would you like to immerse yourself in an intriguing and soothing tale? If so, I have just the right story for you. This story unfolds a slice of the life of a young man named Kanu Samudra, a student at Wufi High School, nestled in the heart of Wufi village. But before, take a deep breath and exhale.
Once upon a time, in the village of Wufi,
Kanu Samudra would carry that moment with him throughout his life. It marked the initiation of his journey into the realm of love. The morning unfolded during the orientation week at Wufi High School, with 5 senior committee members orchestrating the proceedings and outlining the rules. As the seniors took turns addressing the class, Kanu's attention was captivated by one particular individual. She was adorned in a hijab, radiating beauty. Introducing herself as Diana Maharani, she held an air of grace and confidence. Diana unveiled the first assignment of the day, tasking the new students with crafting poetry. The theme was simple, an expression of admiration for one of the 5 senior guides present. Each newcomer had the liberty to choose the senior they wished to dedicate their poem to. While the task seemed straightforward for those adept at pouring their emotions into words, Kanu, an introvert immersed in the realms of games, films, and comics rather than the world of literature, found himself out of his element. Words, especially those intricately woven with profound meaning, were not his forte.
1 hour before today's class is dismissed, your poems must be completed.
Diana announced, accompanied by a sweet smile.
We will then select the top 5 poems and, unfortunately, penalize the 5 individuals responsible for the weakest or incomplete submissions.
Despite the sweetness in her smile, the ultimatum sent shivers down Kanu's spine. He grappled with the daunting task of composing a poem. What would he write? Had the deadline been the following day, Kanu could have consulted the internet or sought assistance from ChatGPT, refining his work accordingly. Unfortunately, this dreaded assignment demanded completion by the afternoon, and new students were prohibited from bringing cell phones. Event after event unfolded, and hour after hour passed, leaving Kanu in a state of mounting stress. The spark of inspiration eluded him, unlike his peers who reveled in laughter, signified that their poems finished. Nevertheless, just minutes before the deadline, Kanu made the decision to pen down his stream of consciousness, unfiltered and raw. The poem found its place on a sheet of paper. With an overwhelming sense of relief, Kanu managed to submit his composition just in time. Though his heart continued to race, he braced himself for the impending punishment, anticipating reproach for his hastily crafted verses. Just imagine, he wrote the following.
Kind-hearted Diana. Among the hundreds of senior students here, you are the most beautiful one, that's a fact. Among the thousands of residents of Wufi village, I'm the stupidest when it comes to poetry, that's also a fact. But I hope not to be punished for this stupidity. Did you know? I had a headache for hours thinking about this task. It's enough for me to write a poetry once. I can't do that no more. I really can't. By Kanu Samudra.
Strangely, with that ludicrous poem, Kanu managed to escape the punishment of dancing in front of the class. However, it didn't secure a spot among the top 5 poems presented that afternoon. In the unforgiving laws of the world, the middle ground often goes unnoticed. If you find yourself neither the best nor the worst, anticipation for discussion about you is but a futile hope. Even well past the conclusion of orientation week, Kanu's distinctive poem remained untouched by conversation. Silence enveloped it, as if it never existed. Kanu himself didn't dwell on it much. Eventually, he arrived at a bitter realization: Diana Maharani had disregarded his poem. The enchanting aura of Diana's beauty gradually faded from Kanu's thoughts. Today, despite his persistent headache, Kanu compelled himself to attend school. The lessons added an extra burden to his throbbing head, prompting him to decide quickly during the break to seek solace at the folder, the nearby public library. There, he hoped to find respite from the incessant and useless excited chatter that plagued him at school. The tranquil ambience of the library instantaneously brought solace to him. It provided the perfect environment to ease his throbbing head and heavy eyelids. A mere minute later, 2 female students entered, occupying seats at the back. Kanu paid little attention, yearning only for a brief reprieve in slumber. Nevertheless, the conversation between the 2 girls behind him escalated, inducing another wave of dizziness in Kanu's head. They delved into topics such as the latest book by Dan Brown, questioned the absence of new releases in recent years, constant chatter and more. Ironically, despite their apparent literary knowledge, the girls failed to grasp the fundamental concept that a library should be the quietest place on earth. In response, Kanu turned back to admonish them. Yet, when his neck had pivoted beyond 45 degrees, a sudden emotional dimming occurred, extinguishing the annoyance that had built up in his head over the past 5 minutes. On the contrary, upon realizing a boy with reddened eyes was glaring at them, the girls' laughter abruptly ceased. Now, Kanu and one of the girls shared a locked gaze. How absurd. Kanu often scoffed at cliched scenes in romantic films where 2 individuals locked eyes. Such scenarios typically led to questions in both hearts: is this an angel? God, I've never witnessed such a beautiful creature. Unbeknownst to him, Kanu's lips uttered the very cliched phrases. Meanwhile, the clock seemed to decelerate, immortalizing this moment in a time frame that bound him with love. It was Arlen Onindita, the classmate he harbored a crush on. How foolish. How could he not recognize the voice of that beautiful creature? However, Kanu believed this was a divine plan. God must have intentionally induced that dizziness in his head, guiding him 200 meters away from school to the Folder Public Library, and orchestrating their meeting. Despite his persistent headache, Kanu couldn't conceal his joy upon re-entering the classroom after the break. Seated in the middle row, he spotted Arlen in the second row from the front, in the right corner near the teacher's desk. They exchanged smiles, and in that moment, Kanu felt like a lost soul who had suddenly found his way home. Since then, he couldn't stop thinking about the incident in the library throughout the school day. Yet, there was one stark reality that shattered Kanu's reverie: Arlen was an academically gifted student. Her proficiency in English, Indonesian, and mathematics was commendable. Regrettably, those were precisely the 3 subjects that Kanu struggled with. Moreover, Arlen demonstrated a profound understanding of Islamic matters. The melodic cadence of her tajwid was captivating when she recited the Quran. During breaks, if not at the library, she would engage in duha prayers in the prayer room. All of this left Kanu feeling simultaneously close and distant. Close because he perceived her as his ideal girl. Distant because, unfortunately, Kanu fell significantly below Arlen's academic prowess. For Kanu, it was a call to change. Formerly a lazy student, he transformed into a diligent reader, particularly in mathematics and English. He devoured the latest English novels, even though comprehension often eluded him, leading him to seek ChatGPT for plot summaries. That night, while the entire household slumbered, Kanu found himself still fixated on the math practice book. His fingers mechanically twirled the pencil, the other hand propping up his head. Despite tens of minutes spent contemplating, a particular question remained unanswered. Out of sheer boredom, he let out a strong exhale, sending papers flying in front of him. If not for the sake of the girl, he would have long abandoned the math book in favor of a game on his cell phone or a movie on Netflix. However, Kanu was unwilling to force himself. After 3 hours of occupying his desk, he finally surrendered to the soft embrace of his bed. Closing his eyes, he pondered the newfound enthusiasm for studying, a sentiment that had never been more pronounced. A smile graced his face. Perhaps that's how love operated, eliciting unexpected and positive changes. It was disheartening, however, to witness that, over the months, the feeling had merely in stagnation. Kanu remained unable to articulate what lay in his heart to the angelic Arlen on Indita. Such is the irony of love. Beautiful, yet often entangled in complexity. A sudden rapping echoed on his bedroom window. Who could be disturbing him at this late hour? Mischievous kids, perhaps? Wufi village was not lacking in pranksters, with Ireng Clentheng being the most audacious. Emotionally, Kanu rose from his bed and approached the window, swiftly opening it. In an instant, his fatigue and drowsiness dissipated when he beheld the figure before him.
Arlen?
Kanu could scarcely believe it.
How do you know my house? All the way from Wufian to Jofi, how did you get here?
The girl flashed a seductive smile.
And how do you know my house in Wufian Hamlet? You've been stalking my social media, haven't you?
Kanu felt embarrassed, his face reddening like a boiled crab with sauce.
I'm just here to deliver a message from Diana.
Diana Maharani? You know her too?
Of course I do, you silly. She's my senior too.
Well, come in first. It's cold in here.
Or, you invite a girl into your room?
Teased Arlen.
Just the two of us? How naughty you are.
Instantly, Kanu's face turned red again.
No thanks, I'm in a hurry, Kanu. I just need to convey a message from Diana, that your poetry at that time was very good.
No way.
She even put it in a pretty frame at her house.
Kanu laughed, feigning surprise. Yet, in reality, his heart blossomed. His head felt light, knowing the secret that had been kept for months. Apparently, his love was not unrequited.
Hey.
Arlen interrupted Kanu's thoughts.
I'm getting jealous.
What do you mean?
What a lucky Diana is. Why don't you write a poem for me too?
Kanu's jaw dropped. He seemed to recall something.
Actually, I wrote one already, Arlen.
Hurriedly, Kanu returned to his desk and retrieved a piece of paper for Arlen. Impatiently, she accepted it and began to read.
Her in my folder. In a quiet library of folder, between random visitors ringing laughter, my dizzy, blurry eyes saw her, somewhere backward in the corner. That was the first time our eyes met. My heart was incredibly trembled. Her smile magically calmed my headache. The whole world moved and we both freezed. Since then, her shadow always dances in my head, but I am the spectator who can only stare. In the library's mirrors I saw an innocent, who always got tangled up without strength. Every dust in the book seemed to carry a message, about silly feeling that grows in my chest. That meaning was the beginning of our page, two hearts intertwined in the library of folder. By Kanu Samudra.
Arlen appeared genuinely moved after reading it.
Or,
holding her chest, she gazed at Kanu with teary eyes.
This is so beautiful. More captivating than the poem for Diana. Wait, not just that. It surpasses the poems I've crafted with the assistance of ChatGPT.
Kanu blushed. Arlen then sought permission to take the poem home. Naturally, the poet granted it. In a slow motion reminiscent of scenes from movies, Arlen leaned in. Kanu stared with a pounding heart, anticipating a kiss. Yet, Arlen's lips veered towards his ear. She whispered,
Have a restful sleep, darling. Continue this enchanting dream, even though I'm departing.
Kanu furrowed his brow, not comprehending. Arlen simply stepped back and smiled. As she distanced herself from Kanu, who was still enveloped in question marks, she revealed that Kanu was currently asleep in his bed, with books still scattered on his desk.
Really? Is this all just a dream? Am I merely lost in slumber? Oh, damn. I should have realized from the outset. A girl with a profound understanding of Islam like Arlen wouldn't just come to a boy's house like this, let alone kiss him. Damn. What on earth am I thinking?
However, Kanu made the conscious choice to linger in his dream. Despite being fully aware that it was all a fabrication, he made no attempt to rouse himself. His sole desire was to savor his slumber a little longer. The tranquility of the dream enveloped him, providing the relaxation he so desperately needed.